anniversary of Guru Nanak, to really have a chance to explore that what was this movement, right? What were some of the challenges and the disruption that took place with respect to things like the caste system, around gender, and when you use that as a foundation, it's very powerful, right? Because here, very specifically in the scripture, there was a denouncement of the inferiority of a female, right? There was a concept of equality that was put in directly in the scripture itself, and then it got further institutionalized within concepts like that women can lead congregation, right? There's no lower status for female within in the religious structure itself. Males and females can partake equally in any aspect of service, so they're not separated for any part of the service piece itself. And they can engage in all the aspects. And then you even got a chance to get what we call gender sovereignty, right? With being given a surname core. And so it gets institutionalized to the aspect that you even are given gender sovereignty. When you look at concepts like the Langar system, when you look at all the different contributors towards the Guru Granth Sahib, it's a powerful teacher and guide of how we should and can carry and conduct ourselves in society. And so based on that foundation, it's a great platform to participate in both civic life and then manage civic life too, because we're talking about issues of racism and identity and some other challenges that we have. So how do we use the scripture as a foundation around what is known popularly as mindfulness, right? To ground ourselves, to do that internal journey, to grow within, to be able to manage what's around us. And so definitely faith is there. You look at other people and other events around the world and throughout Canada, and be inspired by many different people, right? Throughout history, and whether it's people like there's this book, and it's called Rad Women Worldwide, and it speaks to artists and athletes, pirates and punks, and other revolutionaries who shaped history. And in there, it has a phenomenal story of a great suffragette, Princess Sophia Dalip Singh, right? So in our own heritage and history, we have revolutionaries who were part of the suffragette movement, leaders in the suffragette movement. You look at other revolutionaries, whether you're looking at the freedom of India, right? You look at other people who like Nelson Mandela and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. And so there's many different people that you can gravitate to and be inspired by in terms of the journey that we're on. And so there's usually never no shortage of people to look around, but really the ultimate piece is to improve myself and help others along the way and make a difference. And that is really critical. We have concepts, but it's really putting them to action, like concepts like Daswan, Seva, right? And to challenge and stand up against injustice and stuff. And really those are the huge motivators for me to be always engaged.
So that kind of ties into our next question. As you've mentioned, your Sikh identity has very much influenced your life and the actions you've taken. But was Sikhi always at the forefront of your identity, or is that something that you found yourself more drawn to as you got older?
So it was always part of it because I was born into a Sikh family. With respect to articles of faith, it was more towards my teen years. And because it was an identity by choice, because that's another piece I always speak to a lot of people, because when we're talking about this piece around identity and people struggling with identity, I sometimes ask people, sometimes the challenge we have with it is because I use the word, we're default Sikhs, right? Has there been ever a time where you said, you know what, this is an identity that I accept and I choose now going forward and I embrace, right? And until you don't sometimes have that mind challenge, the mind conversation, right? You're just going along by default and are not really understanding why and for what purpose and what to do about it, right? And so, it is something that is part and parcel of me and can never be separated now, right? And like I said, it can be used as a very strong platform to make sure that we can do what's necessary, you know, because quite a lot of times people have asked, and I do presentations and panels, and they ask about, you know, wearing of the turban, keeping of the gaze and the other articles of faith, and they wonder what's the significance and purpose, right? And you know, I always use the metaphor that, look, this identity gives me public accountability, public responsibility. It gives me a sense of identity, a sense of purpose. It also gives me a sense of community as well. And it's important because, simply put, without a direct sense of public identity, nobody will understand or be able to challenge me or hold me publicly accountable to know what I stand for or what I should be standing for. And so it's no different than if somebody has a career in policing. If they're not in uniform, would you know that they're an officer and they have taken an oath to serve and protect, and that they actually have a badge on them, and that should be their duty, and in fact technically should be their duty all the time? But we wouldn't see that person, and we only identify themselves with part of their outward physical initial appearance, and that so-called uniform identity that they're wearing. As soon as that identity's on them, we have expectations of them, right? So I've had a chance to serve as an auxiliary constable with Pure Regional Police here as well, but the public will have a different sense of accountability when I'm in uniform versus when I'm not in uniform, right? And yet, if we can engage people to understand what this uniform means, this identity, it can mean a lot more, right? So, yeah, it always has been part and parcel, and it will always be with me. And it gives me a great sense of pride and purpose.
So, are there any major points of improvement you see within the Sikh community as of right now, where we should be focusing?
Definitely, one of the pieces is that we haven't created institutions in the community, and so if our primary institutions still are gurdwaras, then that's an area where I can see that we can make a huge impact and difference, in terms of the committee, the structure, the programming, and how it can be used much more resourcefully than just fulfilling what I call a number of our ceremonies. So whether it's the birth of a child, whether it's somebody passing away, whether it's a wedding, somebody bought a new house, a new car, or whatever it is, and the kanpats and the kirtans and stuff. And so that's one aspect that I think is an area that can go. It's going to be a tough one. It's a challenging one, because it speaks to the second part, which is that we have not been able to, one, nurture, and two, create enough spaces, platforms, and nurture and cultivate the right environments for more women to take lead and leadership roles in community affairs, right? So I bet you if you go to the majority of gurdwaras across Canada or any other institution, that you'll predominantly see it's mostly adult male run in community. And I think there's a lot to be said about that.